Well, hello there. How are you? Let me put my little ticker there. Look at that. Welcome, friends, to the Dress Your Loom Student Ask Me Anything event. I have done this for the last couple times. We've opened the doors for the Dress Your Loom course. And I think it is such a valuable time to hear straight from the students that have already gone through the course and to answer any questions that you have about what it's like to be part of the Dress Your Loom course and how hopefully they've all fallen in love with weaving. We're going to find out here in just a moment. So without further ado, I'm so happy to introduce Kimberly and Liz and Martha, who are my lovely, fantastic panel for today. Thank you so much, ladies.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it's so nice to have you here. It's nice to have you here. Now, I think if I remember correctly, did all three of you go through the January, just last January?
Yep, I did. Yeah.
Okay, okay, excellent. Yeah. I love it. Then that's all kind of fresh in the brain and current for you. So let's start off with kind of a softball question. Why don't you kind of go around and introduce yourselves and talk about what your kind of crafting experience was like before you got into the Dress Your Loom stuff. Kimberly, we'll start with you, dear.
So I am a self-taught knitter and crocheter, and then I decided to kind of dip my toes into the gateway drug of weaving. I just bought a loom because it looked really cool, and I had no idea what to do with it. Like 3 years ago, maybe it's been 3-4 years ago. Yeah, but I was a knitter and crocheter to start with, and then I'll tell you more about my experience with weaving. So
that's perfect. I love it, Liz. We're gonna come to you next year.
Yeah, so I started out embroidering as a teenager, then moved to sewing clothes when my daughters were little, then dipped my toe into the quilting world, and I like that a lot. I like the geometry of it and fitting the pieces together. So when I had a chance to take a weaving class at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, our neighbor was a student there, and she taught weaving. I loved it right off the bat. You know, it was I think that quilting to weaving just, it just scratched the itch, that I have for putting things together and making them fit.
Right? I love that, Liz. Wonderful. All right, Martha, what about you, dear?
So I was a knitter taught by my Lithuanian grandmother many decades ago, and was doing knitting and was always interested in weaving, but didn't know how to start, and then saw you online, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. I love that. Okay, but what I think is so cool is that everyone came from a little different variation of some kind of crafting, making something. And what I find in general is that people don't typically go, not usually, they don't typically go from zero to weaving. There's usually some kind of crafting, making in between that leads them to weaving. So I love the variety of different crafts and art that you were into before you found all of this. So let me ask this question, toss this out to you. So when you were kind of looking for some kind of a weaving class, what specifically were you hoping to find? Kimberly, we'll start with you.
Well, I just dive into stuff. I don't do a lot of like tipping my toes into anything. And I bought, I don't know anything about looms. I didn't know a floor loom from a rigid heddle from a potholder loom. Like I knew nada. Yeah. And I just like, this is cool. And I bought a loom and I didn't even know what it did. And I got it and I was like, oh, what the heck? So then I joined my local weavers guild. And they had this loom that I ended up naming Fiona. And the woman was in the guild and she had passed away. And so I got her floor loom with a bench and all the books and I got like everything. I had to get a moving van to get it to the house. And I paid $200. But I still had no idea if I was making pot holders. I had no clue. I was just like, it's cool. And I had like zero clue. And so my husband's like, well, you better figure this thing out. And nobody really knew. I didn't know anybody that knew how to teach weaving. Even people in the guild are like, oh, that's really cool, but they weren't teachers. And so she sat there. I named her because she's so big in my craft room. She's huge, and I didn't know what to do with her. And I think I found Chris just, I have a YouTube channel, so I figured, well, where do you go to learn stuff but YouTube? Hello. And that's how I found Chris. And so I kind of followed you for a long time until I saw this Dress the Loom, and we can get more into that. But that was kind of my journey, which is totally chaotic.
Just buying looms willy-nilly, just ready to go. Yeah.
Yep. Have a loom, no idea what to do with it.
No idea what to do with it. I like that. That's a good enough reason. Absolutely. Now, Liz, what about you, dear?
So the first classes that I was attracted to, and books that I buy and whatever, is I want to make a thing. So if there was a class, so I lived in Milwaukee when I first started weaving, which many more opportunities for that kind of thing. The guild was very active. A lot of the ladies did classes. There was a weaving shop, a half a mile, very dangerous from where I lived. And she taught classes. So I was always attracted to come take this class, and the project is going to be a scarf, a blanket. And then I wanted to know different structures. Like, we're going to make a twill blanket. We're going to make a scarf out of this kind of wool in these two colors. So very, very specific project oriented.
Very organized.
Very organized.
Yeah, not at all my experience.
If you can see me warping my loom, I'm telling you, we got binder clips, we got clips, we got little ties. It's just like, oh no.
Yeah, we got toys galore.
Those soldiers are drilling. They are drilling.
There you go.
We got a cadence going.
Stay in line. Now, Liz,
everybody's
I want to ask
in line.
so quickly, how long ago did you take your first class? This wasn't recent though, right?
Oh gosh, no. This was like in 1989. Oh. Yeah, 1989 to 90. Yep.
Wow. So
a long time ago.
Yeah, I love that. So as the Dress Your Loom course came up, kind of what were you looking for at that moment then?
Definitely so I had always worked my looms back to front.
Oh, okay.
And that was getting to be difficult because I have arthritis now in my hands and in my wrists and my fingers, and just like so reaching over to thread that or to slay that reed was just killing me dead. It was like, oh, I don't even know if I can keep doing this. So I happened to catch a little YouTube video of you sitting at a table slaying your reed, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want. Just take that reed out of the loom, put that thing at a table, get your coffee, get your your stuff. And so to learn to weave from front to back was what prompted me to take the class. Even though, I know how to set tension. I know, a lot of those, the vocabulary and how to use the tools and all that, but I really needed a different way to dress the loom. And the front to back has been just changed my weaving. It's brought, I weave, I cannot tell you the number of things I have woven from January till now. And that was because the weaving, the dressing the loom is, not only is it not a problem, it's a pleasure. I
love it.
It really has.
Thank you, Liz. Yeah. That's so nice.
And I weave samples now because your project was a sampler, and I was.
Project was a sampler. Yep.
Yeah, and I almost was like, well, okay, it's a sampler, but I'm going to do some placemats. And I thought, no, you paid a pretty penny for this class. Follow what the lady says. Right?
Follow along.
Follow along. So I did, and I wove the sampler, and I was like, oh, this is what fooling around and playing on the loom is like. Okay, I get it.
Hopefully that was fun. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, Martha, I'm going to come to you, dear. So what were you kind of in the market for when you came across the Dress Your Loom course?
So I had dipped my toe into, there was a local in Harvard, Mass, not the university, but a little town in Central Mass. There was a yarn shop that had classes for, learning to spin, and the teacher was doing a table loom class. So I said, okay, well, I'll start with that. And she was a really good teacher, and I took lots and lots of notes. And then I said, I think I'd like to start with a floor loom, not a table loom, because they would let you take the loom home with you to do your samples and whatnot.
Okay.
And I came across a loom that was for sale, a floor loom, Harrisonville. And we went down to Connecticut and bought it and stuffed it in the back of our Acura MDX. And,
That's awesome.
and it had a bench, and like Kimberly, all the books, and it was from a woman who had preteen children, and she had bought it and then said, I just don't have time to do anything more with it. So it was in her garage, well cared for. So we brought it home, and then it was sort of like, okay, now what? So I looked at all my notes that I had taken with Penny, and she's a wonderful teacher, but it was just like, oh man, what am I supposed to do here? And I mean, I thought I took really good notes, but I couldn't translate that back into now what do I do with the loom?
Yeah.
So I came across you, and I just really liked your energy on YouTube, and the way you were very encouraging and supportive, and just your energy was really good. And so that's how I got into Dress Your Loom, because I had this loom in my living room.
Oh, that's a commitment.
I love it.
Yeah, that's where it is to this day, right in the living room. And because of you, what I also liked about Dress Your Loom is that the videos are available. So, I started a project, and then life happens, and then you don't finish the project, and it's just like, oh man, okay, so where was I doing this? And you look at the project on the loom, and you go, okay, I know where I was, but what's my next step? And then you can go onto your videos and find your next step, and then just pick up the project. So it's not sitting there for 2 years, it's sitting there for maybe 2 months, because you've got other commitments that you have to do. And then you can go back at any time and scroll through the videos and say, okay, this is where I left off. Now I can resume. And then you just check your loom and make sure everything is okay and ready to go. And then you just pick up and carry on, which I find invaluable.
Oh, excellent. How wonderful. Well, let me toss out this question then to you ladies. So what was it like actually going through kind of the live 6 weeks, like that whole kind of original process? Were there any surprises for you? How did it go? Kimberly, we'll start with you.
Well, for me, the only downside was like one video launched a week, and I would like eat it up, devour it in the first day, in the first hour, and I'm like, no, what do I do?
More.
That was the worst, because I was like, oh, I mean, okay, really? Okay, so seriously, Fiona sat there naked for 2 years because I was watching YouTube videos, and I was watching YouTube where you go back to front and others from front to back, but I didn't know that there was like really a difference. Sure. So I was doing like the front, right? Like back and front and forth and like I didn't, like everything was okay.
The front.
And so it just sat there, and I told my husband, I was like, I think I'm going to sell her for firewood. She's taking up too much space. But I felt so bad, because I even had a picture of the woman who passed away on my wall, and I was like, okay, we got to do this together, Louise. We have to do this. And here's so much I didn't know. I did not even know that I could take the reed out of the loom,
out of the beater bar.
I didn't know, and I was like, that actually comes out? What? And I learned that in your class. I was like, I don't think I'm doing this right. I don't think I'm supposed to take it apart. And then I did it, and I was like, I can't be doing this right, because it's actually so easy. And that I was really like, I got to be doing something wrong. And so Fiona sat with naked for 2.5 years. I did the class in January. Since I finished the class, I have now done 5 projects.
Amazing.
So to me, I mean, that to me is a testimony, right?
Absolutely. It's amazing.
It totally changed the game so much for me that now, I mean, I've got projects that are planned out. I got one that comes off, and then one that goes right back on. I mean, 5 things in 6 months as opposed to nothing in 2 years. That to me was huge.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge.
And that was you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
were
And
like,
it was like you were right there with me.
Yeah.
It's like she was right there with me. And I was like, oh wait, I have a Harry Potter book. So I had to go digging down in the garage, for the old Harry. I was like, what? Why do I don't understand why I need Harry Potter. Is there going to be some magic? I didn't understand. I was like, but I'm going to do it. I trust. I'm going to do it. And I found the Harry Potter book. And I was like,
so here, for everyone who's watching, here's what you have to know is that when I teach how to slay your read, you need to have your read kind of at an angle. So I suggest a book to prop up one end, and I specifically say Harry Potter. Is it book 4, book 5?
I think so. I don't know. But I had to go down into my son's box in the garage and find, and I was like, I have it. I don't know why I need it, but there's a spell in there that I need or something. I don't know.
I mean, any book will work, of course, but that is funny you brought that up, because I was like, I'm going to use Harry Potter. He's right here on the shelf. That's what I'm going to use.
I thought it was a spell, but it wasn't. It just worked. Yeah.
That was awesome. I love that, Kimberly. So Liz, how about you? How was it going through the process for you of the course?
Oh, it was fabulous. I was, kind of like Kimberly, a little bit like, we go a little faster. Can we go a little faster? Can we go a little faster? But in a way that was good, because it made me watch the videos several times instead of just plowing through. Because I vowed to myself, even though I knew in my head what your next thing was going to be, it was like, well, I'll just go ahead and, I'll just go. I was like, no. You're going to follow it. You're going to do it step by step, because you never know. There are so many ways to do the same thing in weaving, which I have learned over the years, that I thought I did not let myself skip ahead. I did it your way exactly, because that was part of the package, and that's the product that I purchased. Yeah. So that was good, that I had to really watch them over and over and go, okay, now picture yourself doing that, and now actually go do it. And so that was very helpful. The thing that I absolutely adored was the discussions that we had on Wednesdays. I mean, for 6 weeks, I was like, people would talk about Wednesday. I was like, no, don't even talk to me about Wednesday. Like from noon on, no, I can't do anything. Right?
I am booked.
I have to be there for the discussions. Right?
Yeah.
TV dinner. Sorry, hun. This is it. We got the thing.
Yeah. Soup for you. That's all I get.
Love that. I love that, Liz, that you brought that up. And we'll talk about that in more depth in just a second. But I love that you brought that up, because the Q&A is a really important part of the process for sure, to have other students to hear their questions and their ideas. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. And people who watch the same videos as you. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that, dear? The what?
I said people who watch the same videos as you, and you end up with different questions.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. They have different takeaways completely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Eye-opening.
Yeah. Very nice. All right, Martha, dear, how was it for you going through the process?
So you look forward to that Monday, when the video drops.
Yes.
And then there's a lot to, go over. I don't get things on the first go round. Somebody says, okay, do this. And then you move on. Like my brain needs to see it a couple of times. And I think I'm more of a visual learner. Yeah. So the videos are good because you can just review them. And then, like Liz and Kimberly were saying, on Wednesday, when you can, see the other students in the class and talk to you about, okay, what have you experienced and the errors or the challenges that you've run into, and sort of, work on those together and come to a solution, like, oh, that's what I was supposed to do. Okay. Or, so-and-so is having the same challenge as I am. So it's not just me, it's just part of the learning process.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll roll right into the next question, which is about the Q&As, because I want to start with Martha, because Martha would come to the Q&As and be like, okay, here's my list. Here's my list of questions, which was fantastic. I love, Martha, that you were so prepared, and you were so, you really had some of the most thoughtful questions as you went through the process. And for me, that was such an honor, because you were really taking it seriously and you really wanted to understand, which was wonderful. Though, so I just want to start kind of the Q&A. I know we kind of already touched on this, but we'll go around real quick to say, what were some of your favorite things about being part of that live Q&A each week? Yeah,
so that's what I would do. As I'm watching the video, I'm even now, I've got my little piece of paper here and my pencil because it's just something that is just the way I am.
Yeah.
So, and you were always very patient about, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Yeah. And even if a teacher does say that, it's like, I just ask the question anyways, because I don't really care, because that's the way I am. But you're always very encouraging, Chris. And that's one of the, with your sense of humor, and even like the videos that you send out now, it's just, it's just like, there's no wrong way, or, don't get upset about that, or, don't get stuck on that. And I think as adult learners, you need that kind of encouragement, to kind of, take your hand and lead you along.
I love that. I don't know where, that's such a good point though, Martha, because I think as adults, there's a moment when we get into this, especially I find with weavers, which is so interesting. They're like, it has to be perfect. I'm like, what, says who?
Yeah.
And who says what's perfect? So I love that you brought that up, because that is absolutely something that I try to always encourage, is that I'm like, make some mistakes, do all the stuff wrong, whatever. It's going to help you learn. And then you figure out how you want to do it going forward. So that's, thank you, Martha. That was wonderful. Liz, how about you? I know you talked about the Q&A for just a moment, but what was kind of your favorite thing about that, our little Wednesday get-togethers?
Yeah, just different, all the different looms that people used and all the different things they were weaving. It was, I'm in my own little world here. I live too far away from any place, to be in a guild. Right. And so that was really interesting to me, the different kinds of all the, and the beauty of your method is that we had all these different weavers of different abilities using different looms, wanting to weave different things, and we were all able to apply those steps to what we were doing. And I just like connecting with other weavers and hearing, like, even the room they were in, like seeing what was behind them, and like kind of nosy that way, it's just like
voyeuristic a little. That's what I call it.
Yeah, I was just like,
yeah, what you got there?
What's that over there? What was that? Oh, that's where they put their warping board. Oh, okay, interesting.
Love that.
That is a warping board. Oh, I think for me, it's because I'm a knitter and I'm a crocheter, and then especially with weaving, it can be a very solitary kind of activity that you're doing, right?
Yes.
And so you can belong to like a knitting club or a crochet club or whatever. But it's really hard to like just pick up your loom and take it to the library,
Yes.
And so that's it's not very practical. And so I think it's the community of like being able to meet other people, where they are and in their place. I mean, there's a Facebook groups, but that's what I love about, your Live at the Loom on Thursdays, is because, you just feel like I'm in a community. Like, and so I think that's what I really liked about the Q&A. Is that everybody comes together. Like, I didn't really have any questions. I think I was so, I forgot, it might've been Liz that said, or Martha, or both of you, but Chris, you're just so engaging and so
thank you.
Down to earth, and I think there is sort of almost a level of elitism. I know with knitters, it's like, oh, well, if you're a crocheter, when you become serious, then you become a knitter. And I think there's a level of elitism even between like floor looms and, rigid heddle looms and things like that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I never, ever felt that with you. Like, you're like, it's this and I was like, oh, because I put design elements, AKA mistakes, in pretty much everything that I do.
Love it. Yes.
And I'm like, they're all design elements, but you were like, but you made it very approachable. And, like, it's not an elitism thing. There's this great community that you help to kind of create. And I didn't feel intimidated at all.
Good.
So I think that was coming into something that is such a huge commitment. And there are people that are serious. I mean, Liz, you've been doing it for years, and I'm not really sure about Martha, but you both have been doing it longer than me. And so I would have a tendency like just to kind of pull back, because I don't want to say something stupid. Better to be thought of, a fool than to speak your mind and then, remove all doubt.
Oh.
So I think you just make it very approachable. I'm like, I'm okay And that's a great, and I have questions too. And so for me, that was just, you made it approachable and inviting, where I didn't, even in my local guild, and they were all very nice, but I didn't get that feeling.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things that I really loved about you and about your teaching style. And, even now with Live at the Loom, it's very engaging and inviting.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that is absolutely something that I'm always kind of working against, because there is some serious elitism when it comes to the weaving community, which I'm always mystified by. I don't really understand why that is so, but I have students all the time that talk about how they've bumped up against that. So thank you. That is absolutely something I'm always working to. I mean, I don't want anyone to ever feel like they're not included. So
yeah.
I was cured of that. I was cured of that elitism, which I had somehow absorbed from the guild I was in Milwaukee. But I was cured from that the day I decided that I need a rigid head loom, because now that I live far away and I travel back and forth to Milwaukee, and I don't want to be without a loom. So I thought, I'm going to get this little loom and I can take it with me. And then I started learning about weaving on a rigid head loom, and I was like, oh boy, this is not, there's no hierarchy here. It's not like that's the beginning and then you move up. Cause I thought, well, I weave on a floor loom, rigid heddle. It's like, I know everything. It's just stripped down and simplified.
Yeah. You're like, no,
it's all different. I have 5 looms now. 5.
Kimberly.
5
looms. Yes.
I'm very all-inclusive. I'm like, come on, I got a pin loom, a zoom loom.
You're all welcome at Kimberly's house.
Everyone's welcome at my house. If it has anything to do with yarn, and then that's it. And my husband was like, because I have a lot of yarn. I have a lot, and I have to say one thing. I always thought that when you're weaving, but you only need to use the 8-2 or the 10 or whatever. You can't use. I didn't know that you could use regular yarn on a loom. Yep. And again, because it comes to the whole elitism thing where they're like, mass market. And I'm like, but you can, And I was like, what? Because my husband's like, you need to use some of this yarn. And when you're weaving, it uses up more yarn than knitting and way more yarn than crochet. Yeah. So that was his excitement with the whole thing. You just really kind of brought it down to a realistic level, like, hey, I'm just a chick, but I can, I can weave and I make beautiful things. Like I've made cushion covers, and I've made scarves. I made seat couch headrests from my brother-in-law. Oh, nice. Yeah, and he lives here in the UK, so I was able to bring them over. I made some clothing. I actually cut, and
brave girl. Yeah. I know. That's awesome.
That was scary. I held my breath. I was like, oh.
I can do it. I know. It's always a little terrifying. But it's
okay. It's good. It was really good.
now, Liz, what kind of things have you made since the course?
Oh gosh, I should tons of stuff. I'm now into. I used to be for a long time. I was doing nothing but kitchen towels, which I'm still doing, but I have this little list in my head of different weave structures that I want to try. So that's on the floor loom. So I've done monk's belt. Right now I'm doing huckaback, really expanding from just twill and plain weave for the towels. Wow. And now I'm kind of experimenting with sets of things that match. So placemat, the table loom is great for that. So experimenting with a little bit thicker yarns for placemats on that, and then little matching hand towels that I'm doing on the rigid heddle. Nice. And so just expanding. Now that I'm more productive as a weaver, I feel like I can expand into different weave structures and different items. So it's been fun.
Wonderful. And Martha, have you had a chance to do some things since the course?
So I remember you saying once about plain weave and how you can spend. Exactly. So I'm doing a lot of that, table runners, kitchen towels, and placemats and napkins, and just experimenting with it and having fun with it.
Good for you.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. And let me ask this, ladies. Was there the method itself, was there anything that you really stuck out to you that was surprising about the actual front to back method that was in the course? Kimberly, we'll start with you.
I was just, because I'd had so many failures prior to that, you know, my husband, he's a doll. He's so supportive. He
The
really is.
Brit.
And he's
We love the
like,
Brit.
the Brit.
Yes.
Yeah, his name is the Brit. He goes, honey, you just need to win. You just need to win. And I was like, I mean, because he'd had hours of me tangling and untangling and using the rattle and you know, he's an engineer. So engineers really love weaving. They love the whole, like, he's had friends that are engineers come over just to see Fiona, the loom.
Really?
You know, and I was like, yeah, just because I don't know, it's about the pulleys, the levers, the up, the down. I don't know, but they love it. And so honestly, the back to the front to back, the way that you dress it and able to pull things out, I was like, I had no idea it could be this easy. I mean, once I would get it on the loom, I think I did 2 things on the loom on Fiona prior to your class, because it was just like, this is way too much like hard work. And it was, I always felt like it was a surprise when I actually got the loom, you know, like dressed and it worked. And I was like, I don't know what I did, but I did it.
But I'm here.
I don't know what happened, but I did it. And I felt like it was just like a happy accident, right?
Yeah.
And so your method took that away. Now it's like, I understand. And, you know, I mean, I understand the cross, that why everything happens the way it does, but you just totally demystified it. And I really didn't think that it was as easy as you've made it. And it's great that I've got the videos that are there. So, you know, just because I love Chris, you basically, I just play you in the background with every project that I do.
Nice.
You know, just in case I can turn and go, hey, and then, you know, ask you a question, then boom, there's the question. Because I kind of know what you're about to say. So I'm like, hey, Chris, what about this? What's the Harry Potter? Oh, there it is. It's just, you're my training wheels still, you know?
I love that. That's a great answer. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What about you, Liz? What was your was there any real surprise in the actual method?
Absolutely. I had no expectation that this method would cut down on errors so much.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
So for one thing, when you're playing the reed at the table, and so number one, you're more comfortable. So I think that is conducive to being more error-free. But you can just see better. You can, you know, looking through a reed when it's upright is it's very hard to find the little dents, at least for me. And you know, maybe that's just the light I have or the bifocal,
100%.
trifocal thing. I don't know. So yeah, the accuracy of slaying the reed was an absolute surprise. The other surprise was because I'm threading the heddles from the back of the loom on my big floor loom. I can get so much closer to the heddles from the back than I can from the front. And again, more comfortable physically and not making as many errors. So that's just the cherry on the top. So
that's great feedback. Absolutely. Martha, what about you, dear? Was there any part of the process that surprised and delighted you?
You can remove the reed and go and sit at the counter and get comfortable and get a cup of coffee or tea and then everything is visible and it's not all, you know, your back isn't killing you by leaning over and trying to figure out which dent, like Liz was saying, sometimes it's very difficult to see the dents when they're vertical, and then when you have them in front of you leaning down, it's just a lot easier.
Yeah,
I used to actually with bruises on my arms from like leaning over the thing, and I would get like pinched nerves, and that's why I was like, I didn't know you could take the reed out. No clue. I was like,
it's like magic right there.
What? I'm breaking what? I think it sounds like we all had the same takeaway, but for me, that was kind of the game changer for me, I think.
Good.
Yeah. You know, and then carrying the whole big, beautiful ball of spaghetti back over to the loom, and then I'm like, and it just goes in like that.
Yeah.
It was like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also, if I could add, because when you're winding onto the back of the loom, your threads are, when you do it back to front, let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
Your threads are spaced and grouped together in a rattle, but in very big, loose manner.
Okay.
So the way we're doing it is our threads, our little soldiers are all lined up in the reed and through the heddles. So I think I just think I get better tension winding on. And I think it's because the threads are lined up through the
reed already.
Through the reed and through the heddles.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's great feedback. Yeah. And I know, Liz, you alluded to this earlier, and I want to circle back for just a moment. You talked about how you had some real kind of physical challenges with the way you were doing it before. Did you have any of those same kind of challenges with this at all, or were you able to just feel better physically going through it?
Just better physically going through it and every step was really more comfortable physically. I knew slaying that reed at the table was going to be pretty awesome. But just threading the heddles also was just much more comfortable. I had to fool around a little bit because finding the right chair or stool to sit on.
Yeah.
But once I figured that out, which is actually not even a chair, it's one of those buckets that kitty litter comes in. Turn that baby upside down, fold an old towel on top of it. Bob's your uncle. You're right in there, man. You are like the heddles are
perfect
this
height.
close. Yeah, super tight, super close.
Yeah.
Got a real good angle on them. So
see, I love that. That is one of the things that I always like to stress during the class is always make sure, do you have enough light? Are you at the right height? Are you leaving? Like I always try to make sure that's important because we only get one body to do this, and got to make sure we're taking care of it for sure. So let me toss out this question, ladies. If someone's pondering signing up for the Dress Your Loom course, what would you say to them? Martha, we'll start with you, dear.
I would say, if you're looking for a supportive teacher, for a reference that you can go back to repeatedly. I mean, I can't tell you, like Kimberly was saying, wait a second, how was that supposed to happen? And then you just click through the videos and then it, and then there's your answer. And even if for some reason that doesn't answer your question, you're available, Chris. I mean, how many times have I emailed you and said, I'm stuck here, or how is that supposed to go? I just don't quite understand it. And then you always say, I got you. And you're right there. So it's sort of like an eternal reference that you can go back to. I mean, it's not just like this one shot deal when, not anything, but when you take it in person, it's just like, oh man, I forgot, or I didn't write it down because you were listening to the teacher and you didn't write down what you were supposed to do, or you just got, distracted or whatever. And then that question comes back up in the process later and you don't have an answer. And it's sort of like, well, with the videos, the answer is there, or if it's not there and there's an additional question, you're there as well.
Yeah. I love that. That's wonderful feedback. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Liz, what would you say to someone who is on the fence about signing up for the course?
I would say there's probably, other than purchasing the looms, no other dollars that I have spent on weaving have given me as much value as this class.
Wow. All the hairs just stood up on my arms, honey. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
And I say that is 100% true. Not only the technical information, but the relationship building.
Wow.
There's nothing, you just, the return on the investment, it just keeps coming. It's just, I use this method now on my table loom and even on my rigid heddle. So, it's awesome.
That's amazing.
Me too.
Thank you.
Learned how to now. I've learned how to indirect and direct warp onto my rigid heddle, as well as my floor loom, thanks to what I learned, with Chris's class. I think so. When I got my first loom, I joined a another weavers subscription school thing, and I think it was a year long or something. And I went, it didn't resonate with me because it was just a library of videos. So I had to go and figure out and it wasn't set up like a course. It was like, oh, if you want to learn this, go here. If you want to learn this here, I'm like, well, I don't know what I need to learn. You know what I mean? Like, it's like walking into a library going, okay, well, I don't, well, tell me what I need. Like, I need a syllabus. I need to know, like, take this and then this and then this and then this, right? And my husband always says, right tools for the right job, and that's his expression. And it totally applies here. It's like, you know what? Don't fumble through. Just start honestly. If I were to tell somebody, just, you know what? Start with your class. Just forget everything else. Start with your class, because you are the right tools for the right job. And you've totally turned my weaving experience around, my weaving game. I mean, I talk about weaving on my channel all the time. I've even got my own playlist for it, because I'm like, look, don't be afraid of this. There's a lot of spaghetti out there. Yeah. Let me just clear it away.
I love that.
Take your class. And the fact that the class is yours forever and ever, amen. You can go back to it anytime you want. Yeah. It's that, like you were saying, Liz, I think it's that initial investment, but it just stays forever and ever and ever. 20 years down the road, I could, blow off the dust and go right back in, and it all makes sense, and it's all real. And
I love that. Well, and to your point, though, Kimberly, I think that's part of the reason I wanted to make the course in the first place, is that there's so much out there. I love your word spaghetti. There's so much spaghetti out there, because as we've all learned, there's a million ways to do everything in the weaving process. And I think that is comforting and also terrifying, because then you're like, if I'm just starting, how do I pick? How do I know which way to go? So thank you for that comment, because I think that's certainly one of the things I always try to impress upon people. I'm like, I can give you a method. You could tweak it from there. You can do other things, whatever is best for you. But I will give you the roadmap to go to get you started. So thank you for that. That's wonderful.
And then going to like your guilds and whatever. I mean, the guilds are, we have a guild that's great and very active, and they teach classes, but it's, it's just still very daunting, very overwhelming. This class, Dress the Loom, was not overwhelming. It was not daunting for me. It was very straightforward. It was not confusing. And it was just like, why? I feel like I wasted time with my loom that I could have been really enjoying the weaving, instead of going through this, I absolutely hate it. I hate it. I hate it. She's going to be firewood, to come out on the other side,
We're just so glad Fiona wasn't firewood. We're so glad.
No, Fiona is in very, very good shape. She's now well loved.
Excellent.
But it was a little touch and go there for a while, a little kindling for a while.
Right? Little kindling. There you go. Well, there's a couple comments that came in here. I just wanted to bring those up. Donna took the class. She said she went through the last class, and the comfort level, she loved the front to back as well, just like you guys. Absolutely. Yeah. Donna, I love my friend. And the tag says, Coal Mine says, engineers like the loom because it is a source of the first computer punch cards. Which is weavers, first computers. We'll take that for sure.
Yeah.
Right, ladies, are there any kind of parting thoughts? You've been wonderful, and I'm so honored that you're here and that you were some of my favorite students for sure. We had such a good time, and we'll continue to with the July course. I think some of you are going through the course again with us in this upcoming iteration, right? Which will be fantastic. So, any kind of parting thoughts for our friends in the audience that you want to share? We covered a lot.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I think we all come from different backgrounds. I know Liz comes from quilting and sewing, and I come from more knitting. And I think Martha said she was also a knitter, but knitting and crocheting. And I think people are like, oh, I don't know. And it's like, you know what? Go for it. You can, if you're even remotely interested, you don't have to commit to purchasing a loom like the three of us have, or the four of us, including Chris. Rent a loom, dip your toes in, see if you like it, find your local guild, and just get in. And let me just say, I love my finished products. The three things that I do, knitting, crochet, and weaving, all very different in results. Yeah. All very different. But I love making fabric. I love making material. It just feels so different and it's so cool. And then you can start playing with the colors. So, go for it, dive in. You don't have to go out and buy a loom and buy all the supplies. You can ease yourself into it. But I think if anyone's even tempted or interested, just check out your program, your class, and then go from there. That would be my first thing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Yep.
Excellent. Any other comments you guys want to make before we sign off here? You guys have been wonderful.
I'm looking forward to meeting some of the new students that are watching now. I'm like, come on in. I want to meet you. I want to talk to you. Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I agree, Liz. I look forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be wonderful. Fabulous. Yeah. Well, thank you to everyone who joined us today. If you'd like more information about the Dress Your Loom course, I have a link down here. It's just actingcreative.net/Dress Your Loom course. And my panelists here, why don't you stick around for just a moment as I wrap things up, because I'll come back and chat with you in just a moment. So everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really a thrill. I hope you enjoyed hearing from the panelists. They're just the best. And you are welcome to join us in the Dress Your Loom course. Doors are now open through Thursday, July 17th at 4 p.m. And I can't wait to see you there. All right. Happy weaving.